right, what is going on, everybody? This is Nick with Facemask Fantasy. Welcome to the regular Thursday stream as the preseason rolls on and kicks off week 2 today, and the season in general is inching ever closer. John is off today. He is with family, taking care of some personal stuff. But I'm still here. You got me today. For however long anybody wants to go. Of course, we do have the preseason kicking off tonight. Bears Seahawks, I believe, is the game. Chicago is on the road in Seattle for an 8 p.m. Eastern kickoff. So we got that in a couple of hours. So naturally, if people want to watch that game, if people prefer to see the game because there's a chance maybe a couple more starters play in this game, it's the second week of the preseason. Maybe we start. Some teams are going to start to take the training wheels off, I guess, so to speak. Maybe play the starters a little bit longer into the game, or maybe just a few snaps at all that they didn't otherwise get in week 1. But with that said, even with that game going on, we can blow right past it if there's intrigue, if there's interest. The storylines are starting to come fast and furious in the NFL. So, of course, want to make sure we allow as much time as possible to talk through everything. So I know John typically schedules these streams a little bit earlier in the day to give people reminders, and also has he usually does a waiting room. I'm kicking things off straight from the hip at this point, so we'll give it a little while for a couple more people to trickle in. As always, or if anybody is new, I guess what I'll do right now is just do a couple of plugs, and then we can get started. If anyone hasn't come across us before, we are here every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. There's usually 2 of us. John's got the day off today, but just some things to make everybody aware of. Our redraft draft plan is officially available, the second version of it. I got to make a couple more updates to it already. It is the second link in the description of this video. You can also go to our website, facemaskpod.com, if you want to download it there. Should be a simple click and download from the second link in the description of this video, though. I got 150 player breakdowns in there. Draft strategy based on how things go in your specific draft. The idea is to kind of navigate those waters and ideally come up with the most ideal redraft team that we can build based on what happens in your draft. Try to help you guys win your leagues. What's going on, Jason? Thanks for coming in. We have the draft plan, and any feedback is always appreciated, whether it's good or bad. Maybe more constructive than bad. Be gentle. Put a lot of work into that one, but yeah, obviously let me know. And of course, when this stream ends, that doesn't mean the conversation has to. You can head over to our Discord channel. That's the third link in the description of this video. You can. That's an evergreen invite. You just click on that. Join the Discord. Join an awesome community that's growing all the time, every week. Maybe not every day, admittedly, but every week. With people who just want to talk shop, just want to talk fantasy, redraft, dynasty, trades, talking points in general. Anyone is free and more than welcome to join that up. So just wanted to give a couple of quick plugs on that. But we got a couple people in here now. So enough with the plugs. Let's talk shop. What's going on, Iron? Rojo? What's going on, Notorious? Good to see everybody. As you guys, I have mentioned, John already mentioned it earlier in the week. He is off today, dealing with some personal stuff, dealing with some family matters away from the mic. So, hoping everything's all good with him. But I got you today. So let's talk shop because preseason is kicking off and there are some headlines from today. That's for sure. Jason, what are my thoughts on Josh Palmer? And no, appreciate this. As you guys know, always happy to take questions. Obviously, the big news, the big talking point today, or just the big headline today, is the Deshaun Watson verdict, which was, of course, going to be what I talked about. Eventually, one, if people wanted to, and two, after I guess just I gave my introductions and gave people opportunity to join up. But I can talk Palmer. I mean, I feel good about Palmer. I got to double check his ADP, but he's attached to Justin Herbert, who is a consensus, I think, top three at worst quarterback, regardless of format. Dynasty, absolutely, but even in redraft, I regularly see him drafted ahead of Patrick Mahomes, ahead of Lamar Jackson, ahead of Kyler Murray. Justin Herbert is it. And so any one of his weapons, you want a piece of that pie. Josh Palmer's ADP is around 128. So in a 12-team league, I guess you got to go into the 11th round to draft him. I'm fine with that. He's been heavily utilized with the first-team offense this year. There was a practice a couple of weeks ago where he matched Mike Williams in catches on 7-on-7s. Take that for, however much you want, or for whatever that's worth. Palmer flashed last year. I think he's going into his third season. So it's that proverbial, third year breakout potential, or was he a rookie last year and this is his second season? Either way, we're seeing young rookies not taking as long as they used to make an impact in the NFL. I'm huge on Palmer for wide receiver depth this year, or in Dynasty in general. Remember, Keenan Allen is 30 years old. Could they eventually draft somebody with higher draft capital than the third round, which was where Palmer went, or bring somebody in free agency to eventually replace Keenan Allen? Obviously not after this year, but eventually, with him being 30 years old. Yeah, they could, but Palmer feels like a natural in-house candidate to assume a larger role with each growing year, starting with this year. I think he has separated himself from Jalen Guyton as far as the depth receivers for the Chargers. And if anything happens to either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, he's going to slot in as a starter. If either one of those guys has to miss a game, Palmer's going to have wide receiver 2 upside. I don't care what the matchup is going to be. He's really enticing for receiver depth. He's a good guy to, you're looking for upside. By the time you're 100 picks into the draft, hell, by the time you're 50 picks into a redraft, but by the time you're 100 picks into a draft, you're looking for upside. Or at least I am. Swing for the fences on each one, and even if you only hit on one or two, you'll end up with a regular starter. Again, 11th, 12th, 13th round. Palmer fits the bill. He's young. He flashed last year, and he's attached to a great quarterback and a great offense. There's not too much more convincing that I need to be interested in Josh Palmer. He's a wide receiver 2 if Allen or if Keenan Allen has to miss time, or if Mike Williams has to miss time. Yeah, so I'm high on him. Am I watching Bears Seahawks? I'll check it out. So I mentioned right at the top, maybe you guys hadn't quite joined up yet. I'm willing to go for as long as people are willing to talk shop, or, I can take questions. We can field whatever general topics. Obviously, Deshaun Watson is a big one today. Anything in general. We got 2 weeks until September 1st. We're 3 weeks from opening night. We are 3 weeks from Bills Rams. So I can be here for, through the game, or if everybody wants to call it during the game, as the game's kicking off, that's fine. I leave it up to you guys. I don't have a problem going over, but I'll check out some of it tonight. I'm sure the NFL Network will replay it at some point if I miss some of the game. But yeah, I mean, let's see. I from what I last saw, I think Justin Fields is playing tonight for the Bears. Let's see how he does. I want to see Justin Fields. At this point, Justin Fields is a guy that I'm rooting for, because he had the deck completely stacked against him last year, right? With Matt Nagy and his complete ineptitude. as a coach and as a play caller and as a game planner. And now the narrative is Justin Fields has very little to work with on offense. So let's see if he can maybe build some confidence here against the Seahawks. I know it's the preseason, and at the end of the day, the results, whatever actually happens, doesn't matter. But for any individual player, there's always opportunities to build confidence or build some momentum. Let's see what happens tonight, even if it's for just a quarter, or maybe less. Honestly, he's their most important player by far. Maybe just don't overexpose him. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, depending on how things go, yeah, I'm interested in watching the game. Interested in checking things out. Yeah, I guess Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then is there a Monday night game? I feel like Falcons Jets Monday night. So yeah, 5 days in a row of preseason football, man. And tonight is the 3-week mark. We're 3 weeks to it being for real. 3 weeks from Bills Rams. So we're talking shop as long as anybody wants to talk shop tonight. Iron, I know you have been an addict with Hard Knocks. I appreciate your dedication. If you win our members league, I feel like we need to get you a Jamal Williams jersey. I don't even know who's on your team, but it just feels like that's necessary at this point. Which is going to be a fun little tidbit. The winner of the members leagues, if we can get a second one together, which I think we will, winner gets a jersey of their choice. So it's not money, but it's still, I would say that's a pretty awesome consolation prize. James Heiner, what's going on, James? Thanks for coming in. How do I think Christian McCaffrey will do? And has he fully recovered from his injuries? I don't know if I've officially announced this. I need to update my draft plan. In redraft, in one quarterback leagues, I'm officially going back to Christian McCaffrey as my first overall pick off the board. Standard, maybe that's a little bit of a tougher sell, but in half PPR and full PPR, there's no question. No disrespect to Jonathan Taylor, but Christian McCaffrey has proven to be, it's been a while, but for a season plus, the non-quarterback cheat code of fantasy football. I am not overly concerned about the injuries he has accumulated. Yes, he has accumulated injuries over the course of a short amount of time, so he's being pegged as injury prone. People are off of him because he's suffered too many injuries over the course of too short of a time frame. I understand the concerns, and I understand having your reservations. But I always tell people, when you play fantasy, man, swing for the fences on your picks. Go for the home runs. You go for the home runs, you knock it out of the park with 2 or 3 of them, you're at least a playoff team. And I'm being conservative with that ratio. Swing for the fences. Christian McCaffrey is a home run swing if you have the first pick in your draft. And that's what I'm doing with the first pick. If I have the second pick and McCaffrey falls to me, I am elated. I'm really happy about that. If he falls to third, I've never seen him fall to fourth. If he falls to third because somebody takes Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, maybe there's a Derrick Henry truther in there somewhere. If I'm picking third overall and I have Christian McCaffrey, I'm immediately texting the chat room like, I just won. I won the league. Which might be a little, what's the word? Not rude, but facetious, I guess. But I that's how I would feel. I am not worried about Christian McCaffrey. The injuries he's accumulated are not ones that you have to worry about long term. He basically had what amounted to an ankle sprain last year. Now, not to try to knock down ankle sprains. They're nasty. They knock you out for that season. Like Jerry Jeudy, high ankle sprain week 1. His 2021 was never the same. McCaffrey had what amounted to basically an ankle sprain. And yeah, that wrecks you for that year. That wrecks you for that season. With time and rest, it does not have long-term ramifications. McCaffrey doesn't have any long-term injury concerns. The injuries he has suffered has just taken him out for that year, the year he actually suffered them. So when you factor that in, and the fact that McCaffrey's still only, 25? Is he 26 at this point? Okay, he is 26. Whatever. He's not 30. McCaffrey's not 29, 30 years old. He's still in that window of top elite potential running back performance. Yeah, it's a young man's position. You usually see the best performers. They're 22, they're 23, they're 24 years old. But the flip side to the injuries with McCaffrey is he should be fresh. He hasn't absorbed huge workloads for a couple of seasons. He should have some fresh legs under him. So yeah, I am taking McCaffrey 101. In one quarterback redraft leagues this year, I am taking McCaffrey first overall. You don't lose the draft if you miss on your first round pick. So if you have an opportunity to get the guy who has proven to be able to average 25 fantasy points a game, take that dude. So I think McCaffrey is the best upside play on the draft board. James, and I am not shying away from drafting him. So that is my thoughts on McCaffrey. Alex, what's going on? I feel like Swift is going to have a huge year. On Underdog, Saquon's ADP has surpassed his. That Saquon value is going down and down and down, man. He's officially higher than DeAndre Swift as far as Underdog ADP. But yeah, I'm drafting DeAndre Swift at the top of the second round in one quarterback 12-team leagues. And I've been an Aaron Jones guy for years, and their ADPs are very, very similar. I'm taking Swift. If those are the two guys that I'm down to on the board, like maybe I pick like 14 or something, and it's between DeAndre Swift and Aaron Jones, I will take Swift. I will begrudgingly tell Aaron Jones that I'm sorry, and I will draft DeAndre Swift. He's got big time upside in that offense, where they're probably going to be throwing the ball in the second half of games more often than the Packers will. I think Aaron Jones is going to have a huge year. Swift might have a slightly bigger one. Is a jersey a tax write-off? Hell, I need to change all of my league prizes to jerseys then. I'll take it though. Nemo, what's going on, man? You want John? I know you want John's glasses. Yeah, you're gonna have to work with him on that. I have no control over that. I have no control over that. McCaffrey's falling to you at the 103. It's not even like I make that pick in my sleep. It's not even a second thought for me. Like, if it's Justin Jefferson who's available to me, or McCaffrey, if it's Cooper Kupp, if it's Jamar Chase, if it's Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, the answer is McCaffrey every time. Every time. He has proven, I know it's been a couple of years, but a couple of non-lingering injuries later, McCaffrey still remains one of the few guys on the board who has proven to be able to average like 20, 25 fantasy points as a non-quarterback. I'm taking a shot on McCaffrey. And if I can get him at number 3, that is highway robbery. what I would do in that scenario is take McCaffrey, high first round. Then I'm swinging for the fences. I'm playing for all upside. I'll probably, unless somebody crazy falls to me, I'll take a couple of receivers at the 2-3 turn. Because most leagues only have to fill 2 running back spots. Okay, I got McCaffrey in one of those spots. Lock it in. Now let me get some anchors at wide receiver. Coming around like where my 4-5 turn is. The 4-5 turn. I'll take at least one more receiver. Maybe a guy like Darren Waller falls to me there. And then I'll worry about running back, like maybe at that 5th spot, but maybe more likely that 6-7 turn. Like, give me McCaffrey, wide receiver, maybe a running back. Play to win. Play as if you're going to have McCaffrey for the entire season, or let's say at least 60 to 70% of it. Maybe he misses like 3-4 games, but on the whole, he's healthy and he's, delivering for you at an RB1 clip. Just grab a bunch of depth running backs later. That's what I would do. But because then at McCaffrey at 103, now I can just take shot after shot after shot. And feel just fine about swinging for the fences every single time. James, do I think what's going on with Kamara will affect him in fantasy? No, I don't think so. Like, could it be a distraction? Sure. I'm not Alvin Kamara. I don't know what his mindset is. I don't know how much time he, thinks about this type of stuff. But I have to imagine as a professional, he's focused on playing football for the Saints, and he has to be feeling more optimistic about how the Saints season could go this year compared to last year. This year, they have Michael Thomas back. They signed Jarvis Landry in free agency, and they drafted Chris Olave and Taylor Penning, who's been kicked out of, I feel like, every other Saints practice this year. Drafted Penning in the first round and Olave and Penning in the first round. So they loaded up on some young talent. Jameis, they're monitoring his reps. They're kind of monitoring the injury that he's coming back from, and also the ones that he's picking up in camp. Sounds like he's gonna. I think it's all precautionary. Jameis should be fine for the season. If I'm Alvin Kamara, my focus is, all the reports are that there's not going to be any disciplinary action until 2023, and this offense is a whole hell of a lot better than it was last year. That's my focus if I'm Alvin Kamara. I'll deal with the legal stuff next year. When the time comes. I'm not drafting or operating. Yes, it's something that it's fair to think that these types of things, it's fair to have that outside the box thinking when you're making your draft picks and you're wondering what's this guy's, where is this guy at mentally right now? It's fair to ask these questions, these outside the box questions. These are the intangible things that maybe not your league mates or anybody else in general are thinking. That being said, I can't draft that way if I don't have to reach to end up drafting Alvin Kamara, because his ADP has climbed into the middle of the second round on Underdog Fantasy, and over the weekend I saw him go at the 1-2 turn. I'm pretty much there. I feel like Kamara needs to be drafted as a top 15 pick. And if I have picked 13, 14, 15, he's in that mix. So I'm not worried about. I know that he's got something going on off the field. I am not shying away from drafting Alvin Kamara, because officially in the second round, if he's going to play the full year, he's a value. Last year in one quarterback redraft, Alvin Kamara was going top 5 on what turned out to be a bad offense. Now you can have him in the second round, fully healthy, on what should be a much better offense. get Alvin Kamara. Draft Alvin Kamara if you can. Middle of the second round, maybe even a little higher, draft Alvin Kamara. Nemo, these are the numbers that we need, man. This is the information that everybody comes here for. Baker's throwing the ball around 20% to his backfield, and DJ Moore is excellent. I'm very intrigued by Terrace Marshall. It's going to be a pretty consolidated target share, with all due respect to those guys. McCaffrey should see a ton of targets, and he should see fewer carries. They have Chuba Hubbard. They signed Donta Foreman. Like, if Matt Rule wants to keep his job, a healthy Christian McCaffrey will go a long way in helping toward doing that. Line that man up in the slot. Put him in the backfield and have him run routes. Let Donta Foreman take the carries. Let Chuba Hubbard take the carries. Obviously, you still want to get, put the ball in McCaffrey's hands in the backfield too. But you get what I'm saying. Mix in the other guys more in the backfield. Have McCaffrey's touches be in the form of catches. Baker can dump it off. Baker's capable of little dump offs to Christian McCaffrey, and then let McCaffrey do the rest. I'm telling you, man, if you have the top 3 pick, even including the 101, draft Christian McCaffrey in your 1 quarterback redraft leagues, man. Draft Christian McCaffrey. If he falls to 3, pop off. Rip a shot right there. So, yeah, I'm all in on I'm back. I was off last season. I was like, oh no, I'm officially all in on Christian McCaffrey, pick 101 in 1 quarterback leagues. All in. And Iron, what's about Melvin Gordon talking about Javonte is probably the guy. So I did see that comment. I didn't dig too much deeper into it. I think it's just a veteran making an observation. Melvin Gordon understands the situation. He's the veteran running back, and Javonte is the future. There's expectation that Javonte Williams from the jump takes the majority of the snaps. Now, majority could mean 55% to 45%. That would still count, but the vibes are, I guess at least from Melvin Gordon's point of view, that Javonte is going to get more touches, maybe more snaps and more touches. I've seen conflicting reports all over the place. I've seen beat reporters say that Javonte is the clear top guy in the Broncos backfield in training camp. I've seen at least one beat reporter say, no, it's been a 50-50 split. So somebody's lying. And then I see, there are third party, additional parties saying it's like a 60-40 split in favor of Javonte. So maybe 60-40 is enough for Melvin to feel like he's, maybe more of a 2 than a 1B, or he certainly doesn't seem like he's going to be a 1A this year. Could be a lot, could be a variety of things. Maybe that's a way of him expressing, I hope I get more touches, or maybe he's just gassing up his guy. Maybe he's just talking up his rookie. I don't know. I don't know what the comment is all about. I don't know what the quote is all about. Obviously that the Broncos want to give Javonte Williams the ball more than Melvin Gordon. He's 6, 7 years younger. He's just going to be naturally Williams more explosive this year. Actually, based on explosive run rate last year, I think Williams was top in the league on a bad offense. I will say this. I will just caution, because I love Javonte. I love the talent. The head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, comes from the Packers. Right. And I'm not, whatever the Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon splits, and you can even go back as when Jamal Williams was the team, the Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams splits, it was like a 60-40 split in Jones's favor. Now, that was good enough for Aaron Jones to finish as an RB1 back-to-back years on some incredible efficiency, but he did it. Hackett has said in training camp that he's going to carry a similar philosophy to him with him in Denver. So a best case scenario might be, and this might all Javonte needs. This might be all Javonte needs, but it might be Javonte 60%, Melvin Gordon 40%, and they follow the blueprint that they used in Green Bay, where Aaron Jones, anybody who had Aaron Jones and saw what he was doing on limited touches wanted him to get more touches, but the Packers never budged off of that. They never did that. They would, unless like Williams had to miss the game or AJ Dillon had to miss the game, then Aaron Jones gets all the snaps. But when both guys are healthy, Aaron Jones saw what? Maybe 60% of the snaps, maybe 65, and then maybe like 55 to 60% of the touches. It might be a similar split in Denver. Hackett has said it himself. He's gonna divvy up work in the backfield. The majority should go to Javonte Williams. But Gordon's going to mix in. I'm not putting too much stock into that quote. It could be a player, not so subtly hoping that he has a bigger role than he thinks he will. It could just be him talking up Javonte. Who knows? But he will be. I mean, he's going to get work this year. He's still a good player. Alex, did I draft the Superflex version? No, man, I missed out. What was happening that night? Was that a couple nights ago? Like a Monday or a Tuesday? I don't think I was available that night where it kicked off, and then by the morning it was full. I did not get any Superflex. Did not get any Superflex Pomeranian entries, just a couple of one quarterback options. But if you drafted in any of those, let me know. Throw any rosters in. Throw any final rosters in that you might have put together. Axis Myth, what's going on? Trade question. You got a 2-keeper redraft, full PPR. Mixon and a first for Taylor and a 16th. Wow. Mixon and a first wins the trade, man. Taylor's excellent. Taylor. So I've been saying, I think Christian McCaffrey in one quarterback redraft should be the 101. Taylor's the 102. Like, I'm not bumping Taylor farther down than 2. He does. I mean, look, people are going to draft him 101. And you're not going to get much of an argument from me. He was the best running back in the league last year, and he's still only, 22, 23 years old on a great team in a great situation. He's awesome. Mixon, take Mixon out of the equation, because let's say he's a step and a half below Jonathan Taylor. The first-round pick is leaps and bounds better than the 16th pick. The Mixon and the first, it's not close, man. So if you're the one getting Mixon and the first for Taylor and a 16th, smash accept. If you're the one selling Mixon and a first for Taylor and a 16th, I'm not doing that. That's no way. Like, okay, Taylor better than Mixon. Fine. By, again, let's say like a step and a half. The first round pick to the 16th round pick, like, dude, the gap is significant. I want the Mixon side. No question. No question. The 16th does not compare as far as the return. Jonathan Taylor is not. Think of it this way, Axis. Jonathan Taylor is not 15 rounds better than Joe Mixon. I don't know if that complicates things a little bit, but you kind of get where I'm saying. The Mixon package is just, it's not close. And it's rare. It's just rare in general. Taylor could do it. I don't want to take it away from him, but it's rare in general for running backs to repeat as the RB1 overall. They repeat as RB1s. That happens all the time. It's hard to repeat as the 101 overall. I think Todd Gurley was the last one to do it, and then before that, it was like a decade. It just doesn't happen. Could Taylor finish top 5? I'll say what I was originally going to say. Should Taylor finish top 5 at the position? Yeah, probably. With the expectations, the 101 draft capital for most people in one quarterback leagues, and in that situation that he's in Indianapolis, yeah, he should probably finish top 5 at the position. But it's really hard to repeat as the number 1 overall. So give me Mixon and a first. Pretty easily. Elout, what's going on? It's been a little while. Hope all is well. Is it worth it if he gets a suspension? We talking about Kamara? I'm drafting Alvin Kamara. I'm drafting Alvin Kamara as soon as pick, I'll say like 13, 14. I saw them go at the 1-2 turn in a 12-team underdog tournament over the weekend. So somebody is now officially willing. There are people, or at least one person that I've seen, who are officially ready to take Alvin Kamara at the 1-2 turn, essentially making him, if not a borderline first-round pick, an actual first-round pick. I still really like DeAndre Swift. I still really like Aaron Jones. I like CeeDee Lamb in that area, and I liked if Travis Kelce is at the 1-2 turn. I think I still want Travis Kelce because of the positional disparity. Plus, I just think he's going to feast this year with all of the targets that Tyreek Hill vacated. But Alvin Kamara officially deserves to be drafted. I'll say firmly in the top 15. We haven't even had the preliminary hearing. It's not even the court date. Okay? It's not even the court date for Alvin Kamara. The preliminary hearing is scheduled for, I think, September 29th, the end of September. So let's say in about 7 weeks. That's just the hearing to schedule the court date. And then after the court date, then however long that plays out, you got however long the court date happens, and then you just got to schedule the trial, right? Court date, then the trial, then however long the trial happens, and then the jury's got to deliberate on whatever the decision is. There's not going to be, feel free to roast me if I'm wrong. There's not going to be a decision on Alvin Kamara this year. I just don't think there's going to. The way the legal process takes forever, man. No matter what it is, it takes forever to figure out anything. So Alvin Kamara's got the preliminary hearing, then the court date's probably going to take another few months to get scheduled, and then the trial's going to happen. The season's going to be over, man. The punishment, the suspension for Alvin Kamara is not happening until 2023. The punishment for Alvin Kamara is not happening until 2023. Come back to this channel and roast the shit out of me if I'm wrong. Go for it. But the way that this has already been pushed back, the preliminary hearing has been pushed back, I think twice now, at least once. I'm not worried about a Kamara suspension this year, and therefore I am taking him in the top 15. Standard scoring, all right, maybe top 20. Half and full PPR, I'm taking Alvin Kamara in the top 15. If I have picks 6, 7, 8, and Alvin Kamara is available to me in the second round, where I pick it's in the second round, boom, easy. I'm drafting it. I'm going to keep it moving. He was a top 5 pick last year with a terrible offense. He's a second round pick this year on what should be a much better offense. Draft Alvin Kamara. I know I already said that. I'm saying it again for anybody who didn't hear me say it the first time. Draft Alvin Kamara in the top 15. James got another question. Absolutely. Keep them coming, guys. Happy to answer as many questions as we have in here, or we can talk shop on whatever. Obviously, the big news of the day is Deshaun Watson. But don't mind talking other topics as well. Absolutely. Which rookie quarterback do I think will be the first to start between Pickett, Willis, and Ritter? So Pickett made a nice little case for himself in the Steelers' first preseason game, where he led that he led the game-winning drive against the Seahawks third and fourth stringers. But he made some plays. At least he did it. He put positive things on tape. That's all you can ask for. Same with Willis. Willis showed off that, that intangible, the intangibles that Ryan Tannehill just doesn't have: the big arm and the escapability. All that to say, I think it's Ritter. I think the first guy who's going to start is Ritter. Here's why. The difference between the Falcons, the Titans, and the Steelers, two of those teams, for better or worse, have expectations this year. Expectations to compete this year. One of those teams does not. One of those teams is not like the other, which is Atlanta. Atlanta is playing for the future. They tore it down. They traded Matt Ryan. They signed Marcus Mariota, who is nothing more than a placeholder. Trubisky is as well, but it's fair to say Pittsburgh expects to compete. Pittsburgh's roster expects to compete. Atlanta, I don't think they expect to compete this year. I think this Falcons team they're playing for the future. It wouldn't surprise me if their record is 2-6 at midseason. What's their schedule? Let's take a walk down the Falcons' schedule this year. They open things up at home against the Saints. That's not looking good. Then they got to go on the road to LA, the Super Bowl champs. That's a loss. Then they go on the road to Seattle. They can win that game. Browns without Deshaun Watson, sure, they can win that game. On the road at the Bucs, loss. 49ers, probably a loss. Bengals, loss. I would say at best at the midway point, they're like 3-5, or through 8 games, they're 3-5. They got the Panthers the next week after the Bengals. They can win that game. Chargers, loss. They got another game against they got Panthers 2 games in 3 weeks. It's hard to sweep division opponents, so let's say there's a split there. Then they got a couple winnable games against the Bears and the Commanders. Steelers, probably a loss. Saints on the road, probably a loss. Ravens, loss. Cardinals, loss. Bucks, loss. This is not going to be more than a 4 or 5 win Falcons team. So you might as well just get a look at Desmond Ritter and just see what you have. Because Mariota is not the future. And when you have a quarterback starting the year who's not the future on a team that's not going to be good, the leash is as short as it gets. The plug could get pulled by week 5, where they say, screw it. Let's see what Ritter can do. Let's see if he sinks or swims. We won't hold it too bad against him if he sinks because he's a 3rd round project. If he swims, we have a tradable asset, or at least a piece to develop for a couple of years, who is going to be worth more than the 3rd round draft capital that you spent on him. Because all he needs to do is put a couple nice plays on tape over the course of 10 games. Maybe he needs a little bit more than that, but you get the idea. The Steelers with Mitchell Trubisky and that roster, and the Titans, for better or worse, with Ryan Tannehill and that roster, because remember, they're the defending number 1 seed in the AFC. So the Titans have expectations too, even though we're looking at their roster and maybe thinking, rare. Steelers and Titans have expectations. They're going to ride with their veterans at quarterback, I would say, for at least 2/3 of the season. Now, obviously, if their years go south, things can change. But I'm willing to, if I'm betting on any one of these 3, it's Ritter. Because we can all say pretty definitively, the Falcons they're not going to be good. Will they compete? Sure. We're talking about professional athletes. They're all good. But the Falcons are thinner all across the board than most teams in the NFL. They are playing for 2023. They are one of the teams vying for a top pick in the 2023 draft to get one of the marquee prospects at the quarterback position in next year's draft, whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's CJ Stroud. I would say they are the likeliest to turn to their 3rd round quarterback over anybody else. I know Pickett was a 1st rounder, but I think Trubisky's going to play. And as long as the Steelers are winning games, he's going to continue to play. So I would say Ritter. Of those 3, Ritter's the first one to start. The Falcons have nothing to lose. Not for this year. It's not going to be Gordon's year. I mean, Javonte is obviously the favorite in that backfield, but I'm not afraid to draft Gordon in the 10th, 11th round. That's going to be good running back depth. It's going to be, no matter how you slice it, as long as he's healthy, Gordon's going to be good running back depth. He's going to get work in that offense based on the way Nathaniel Hackett has run his offenses when he was with the Packers as the offensive coordinator. Yeah, he's not going to be maybe an every week starter, but Gordon is absolutely going to be a good bye week fill-in, injury replacement guy, plus matchup situation when the Broncos are playing teams that stink. Like, for example, week 1, when they play Seattle and they should crush them. Maybe not crush them, but they should win the game. Denver's just better than Seattle, and they're trying to salt the game away in the fourth quarter, and they're running the ball. In those plus matchup situations, Gordon is going to be usable this year. Javonte is the better player. There's no argument there. Javonte is the more explosive player who offers way more upside. But Gordon is a rock solid veteran who can, he can grind things out in his own right. I'm totally drafting Melvin Gordon 100 picks into a draft. No problem. Xavier, what's going on? You missed the member stream yesterday, but it sounds like we got the makings of a zombie league coming together for the members. So we'll get you. I got to get your sleeper info, and we'll go from there. If anybody's interested, if you are not a member, I'll do a quick shameless plug for the channel. If you're not a member, but you might be interested in becoming a member, if you like what you see and hear from us whenever you visit our page, there are details in the first link of the description of this video and all of our videos. There's an entry-level option to get an additional stream with us during the week for both the offseason and the regular season. That's on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. One additional perk above that of being a part of this channel, being a member of this channel, is you get to play leagues with us. So we're probably cutting it close for the 2022 season. We're trying to set up maybe one more league this year, but moving forward in the seasons to come, if you are interested, one of the perks is John and I will co-commission leagues. We'll take care of that. Your buy-in would be, the membership fee. So wouldn't be asking for any extra money or any additional money in any way, but should be a fun way to, connect with members, draft for fun, little bragging rights, a little trash talk among the Facemask community, and the winner gets a nice little merch, maybe of their choosing. So just wanted to call that out. But yeah, Xavier, we got the makings of a zombie league potentially in the works. Quinn, what's going on? Good to see you, man. Mariota's tearing it up. I mean, yeah. Week one of the preseason. He might tear it up, throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts and Drake London. I just don't think the Falcons are going to tear it up. And I know you like the Falcons, but they're playing for next year. They have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose by giving Ritter as long of a look as they can afford to. Best case scenario, Ritter is a quarterback for them to develop who could turn into a second round pick in a trade. Worst case scenario is he's not the guy, which I don't think the Falcons are banking on anyway. They're playing for a top prospect next year. And as far as Corral, I feel like I've not heard a peep about Matt Corral this offseason. And when they traded for Baker Mayfield, that's all I needed to know. This is a gross quarterback room for Carolina. Is the nail in the Corral coffin? No, of course not. He's a rookie who hasn't had any opportunity yet, but he's now behind Baker and Darnold. At least Willis and, I mean, maybe Corral is low-key ahead of Darnold. Maybe if something happened to Baker, they would just say, screw it, let's just go to Corral. We know what we have in Darnold. They could do that, I guess, if something happened to Baker. But I would still put my money on Ritter as the first rookie quarterback to see action. injuries aside. Alex, you took Kamara. Pick 18 now for Kamara is a value. So, and you did that in the one that okay. So yeah, where we did a best ball together, Alex and I, and Alex got some killer value with Kamara at pick 18. See, that's awesome. I'm patting myself on the back in that scenario. I got him a couple months ago. I got Kamara a couple times in the 3rd round, and now I'm like, let's go. Wheels up, man. This is why I love drafting best ball in June and July. Yeah, you might get burned on a couple things, but on the flip side, you might come up with some serious value. Like anyone who's drafting Chris Godwin in the 6th round, Michael Thomas in the 7th round, a couple months ago, you're feeling good. You're feeling good. So yeah, Kamara, pick 18. I'm with it. I think I ended up with a draft where I took McCaffrey like 102, 103. I got Leonard Fournette at the end of the 2nd round, and then I got Kamara 3rd round. I was like, well, I guess I'm not drafting another running back in this draft. Just hammering wide receiver all through the middle rounds. Maybe I drafted like one more running back. But yeah, man, I love doing best ball in April, May, June. You identify some values. Payday. Xavier, one of your best balls on Underdog. You got Rodgers, Tua, Tannehill. Okay. Running backs, you got Dalvin, Aaron Jones, like that. Montgomery, Damian Harris, Patterson. Okay. Lots of investment at the running back position, but you stopped after CPAT, so I'm okay with that. At wide receiver, you got Tyreek in the 3rd round, I assume, so that's real nice. D-Hop, love investing in D-Hop, and it, no matter where you can get him. 6th, 7th round ADP. All you got to do is wait 6 games, and then you have a guy who's been a proven wide receiver 1. I know he's older now, but he was a wide receiver 1 in fantasy points per game last year before the injury. So I'll take a shot on him in the 6th, 7th round. Ayuk, like that. Wandale, okay. Kendrick Bourne, okay. Donovan Peoples. All right, so the receiver depth is a little thin, especially for as long as you're going to have to wait for DeAndre Hopkins. I like getting Hopkins as my wide receiver 4, maybe my wide receiver 3. So receiver depth's a little thin. That might be a bit of an uphill battle. Tight end, Waller, Gesicki, Tonyan, Hooper. Okay, so first things first, if I draft one of the top 5 tight ends in best ball, if I draft, Kelsey, Andrews, Pitts, Waller, Kittle, if I draft any one of those guys, I'm not taking 4 tight ends. Hell, I'm not taking 3 tight ends. I'll take 2 tight ends. I'll take 1 tight end to offset my top 5 studs bye week, and that's it. Here's why. In best ball, what you guys got to remember with best ball, obviously you want to, it's smart to try to load up on depth at each position to cover your bases, potential for injuries, potential for bye weeks. I get that line of thinking. I understand. But if I draft a stud at tight end, I want to allocate my resources elsewhere. For example, on this team, I would have the picks that you used for Gesicki and Tonyan, I would have used on wide receivers. I like Hooper as a deep shot tight end 2 in best ball. When I have Waller and I have Hooper, my Gesicki and Tonyan picks I'd rather have as receivers. Because you want to operate, you have to operate on underdog, in best ball in general. You have to operate like my team's going to be healthy. All the picks that I'm making, I'm going to hit on these guys. That's the mindset you got to go in with. So the mindset with Waller is I drafted Waller 4th, maybe 5th overall at tight end. That's my tight end this year. That's my dude. Mike Gesicki's not going to outscore him most weeks. Robert Tonyan's not going to outscore him most weeks. Austin Hooper's not going to outscore him most weeks. I don't need the depth at tight end because I'm playing to win. Therefore, I'm playing as if Waller's going to be healthy most, if not all, of the season. So all I need is Hooper for a couple of games to help fill in the holes here and there. You want to play best ball to maximize your team's ceiling. maximize your team's potential. So, yeah, I'm fine with drafting 3, even 4 tight ends if they're all dart throws. You know, you drafted Gesicki, you drafted Tonyan, you drafted Hooper, maybe you drafted Hayden Hurst or Mo Alley Cox or Ty Conklin. Then I'm fine with 4 receivers. If it's a bunch of dart throws, if it's a bunch of random guys 150 picks into the draft or later. I don't want to spend 4 picks on tight ends if one of them is a top 5 guy like Darren Waller is. When I do that, I only want 1 more tight end, and I'm going to hammer wide receiver. So that's my only thing. I like your running back, Xavier, but again, you only have to start 2 of them, as opposed to you have to start at least 3 receivers each week. So for the first 6 games, you're basically hoping Wan'Dale and Kendrick Bourne, or any one of Wan'Dale, Kendrick Bourne, or Donovan Peoples-Jones can be a regular wide receiver 3 for you. I don't feel great about that. Could Ayuk be a steady wide receiver 2 for you until Hopkins get back? Yeah, sure. I think you're going to lose points, though. You're going to be behind the 8 ball to kick off the season because your wide receiver 3 spot is going to be bleeding. There's just the depth is a little thick. You need a best case scenario of Wan'Dale Robinson fires right away and is a regular fantasy wide receiver 3. Kendrick Bourne is the best wide receiver on the Patriots and is putting up regular wide receiver 3 numbers. And in Deshaun Watson's absence, Donovan Peoples-Jones with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback is catching bombs every game, weeks 1 to 6 or 7, and he's giving you wide receiver 3 performances weeks 1 through 7 with Jacoby Brissett. You see where I'm going with this? That's a tough sell for me to expect that type of consistency that you need at your wide receiver 3 spot from those names. So your running backs can get you by, and they'll take care of your flex for you. Let's say Dalvin and Aaron Jones are your guys at running back, and then you got Montgomery, Harris, Patterson to take care of the flex. But even then, in that situation, let's say you have all 5 dudes play well one week. You're guaranteed 2 of them are going to give you nothing. That's the flip side to loading up at running back, right? And being weak at receiver, or vice versa. One of, most likely, David Montgomery, Damian Harris, Cordero Patterson are going to give you zeros some weeks, even if they have good weeks, because it's just you don't get the chance to start as many running backs as you do wide receivers. So where you drafted David Montgomery, I probably would have drafted a wide receiver. Like, I like the Harris and Patterson picks. I probably would have taken a wide receiver instead of David Montgomery. Give yourself some wide receiver depth, and then instead of Gesicki and Tonyan, draft another wide receiver 5, a wide receiver 6. Now your receiver depth, where you got to start 3 of those guys, is looking a lot stronger. See what I'm saying? So when I'm drafting a best ball team, I want 1 running back in my first 2 picks, maybe my first 3 picks, but then I want receivers because I need to fill 3 of those spots every week. So I want anchor wide receivers. I want to take shots on anchor wide receivers who are just statistically less likely to get injured than running backs. Give me a hero running back approach where I do draft 1 stud at running back, sometimes 2. Obviously, I don't want to pigeon myself into one specific strategy. But if I draft 2 running backs with my first 2 picks, or 2 with my first 3, I'm not drafting another running back until 70 picks in at least, and probably more likely like 80, 90 picks in. At that point, I'm hammering wide receiver. If I can get a stud tight end, great. Maybe I'll go for one of the high-end options at quarterback. And I'll grab depth running backs, 130, 120, 130, 140 picks into the draft. So I would pivot off of this strategy of loading up on running backs. Loading up on running backs in redraft, smart. Loading up on running backs in best ball at the expense of your wide receiver 2 and 3, I wouldn't feel good about my chances. So I hope that helps. Obviously, do you in best ball? It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a good time, but you have to be in the top 1 or 2 to advance or to win money. Top 3 if it's not a tournament. Got to swing for the fences. Don't play it safe. CXK, what's going on? John, I see you jumping in with a little comment. Appreciate it. I don't know if he's still in here, but he can obviously help answer questions as well. And we got some stuff loading up in the chat. I see everybody's questions. I see everybody's comments. I promise I will get to all of them. So just sit tight, hang tight. And thanks everybody for being in here. Nemo, rate your guillotine team. 6 spot, 18 man. That's what I'm talking about. This is big boy stuff. Kyler, Derrick Henry, Zeke, Nyheim Hines, Eno Benjamin, Dontrell Hilliard, Parker. Devontae Parker? Is that Devontae Parker? T. Higgins, Drake London, Rashad Bateman. Is there a Parker that I'm like totally blanking on right now? Higgins, T. Higgins, Drake London, Rashad Bateman, Zay Jones, Wan'Dale Robinson, Tunyon Higbee. Start 1 quarterback, so Kyler. 2 running backs. You got Derrick Henry and Zeke. Nice. 2 wide receivers, Higgins and I guess any one of Higgins and Bateman, Higgins and London, whatever. 2 flex. So some combination in the flex of Hines, Wan'Dale Robinson, Zay Jones. Oh, okay. Bateman or London. So you can start Higgins, London, and Bateman. So there you go. Not sure the score, and you think it's PPR? Okay. Yeah, I mean, this team should be fine. This team should be fine. I have not played Guillotine, and if anybody's unfamiliar with Guillotine leagues, anyone correct me if I'm, not totally correct on this, but basically, lowest scoring team of the week, starting week 1, gets eliminated from the league, right? Oh, that's right. It's an 18-man league, so obviously rosters are going to be they're going to be spread out a little bit more. With that in mind, yeah, I think this is a pretty solid looking squad since it's 18 teams. That's nuts. Yeah, I would say that's pretty solid looking squad. When I've, forgot the 18-person little detail at first, but given that it's 18 teams with the depth being a little bit more sparse, a little more spread out, I would say this is solid. But a Guillotine league, lowest scoring team week 1 gets dropped. You're done for the year. And I think your roster goes to waivers. And then it's just, whatever your waiver rules are for guys who are going to be damn good players. So it's definitely some high stakes. I like it, Nemo. You got a top high-end option in Kyler. You got an RB1 in Henry. You didn't have to probably pay that much of a premium to get a guy with RB1 upside in Zeke. I really like Hines for depth. Higgins, London, Bateman are your starters for 2 receivers and one of those flex spots. I guess Higbee is your probably week 1 starter. It sounds like Tunyon might miss week 1, although I know he did get activated off the PUP list, so that was good. And then your second flex is, I guess, either Hines or Hilliard or Zay Jones or Wan'Dale or maybe that other tight end. So that second flex spot is a little, scary, but I guess that's probably going to be the case for lots of people when it's an 18-team league. So yeah, man, say you're looking fine. I don't think you're going to be lowest scoring team or lowest scoring roster. Should be fine. Got a low-end wide receiver 1 in Higgins. Got some guys with big-time upside in Bateman and London at receiver. Yeah, you're good. Your starters at running back are old, right? Like Henry's 28. Zeke's not old, but his body of work is old for a running back. So that's the only thing. You got to be mindful of wear and tear for those guys. But you got Hilliard, who is, I think, still the backup for Derrick Henry. And I think Hines is going to be heavy involved for the Colts this year. So, yeah, solid. Oh, and Xavier, you were in the member stream. My bad. I wasn't sure. If you're down for zombie, awesome. We'll get you. We'll get that set up. Get that set up. ATG, what's going on? Thoughts on DeAndre Swift and Javonte Williams? Okay, so did talk a little bit about both of these guys at the top of the stream. I'm all in on DeAndre Swift as a high second round pick in like one quarterback redraft, in half and full PPR. Think that Lions offense should be good. The offensive line is a strength. Lions offensive line is going to be good. And there's ascending talent in that offense. TJ Hawkinson is still an interesting young tight end with top 6 or 7 upside. Maybe not bona fide top 5, but he's got the talent and the draft capital. He was 9th overall a few years ago in the NFL draft. Amon-Ra St. Brown. We saw what he did to end the season. Should remain a main factor of what the Lions want to do on offense. Jameson Williams, we're probably going to have to wait on. He's not going to be ready to start the season just because of the timeline from the ACL injury. But that could just mean more targets for DeAndre Swift. Should probably mean more targets for DeAndre Swift. And then you got DJ Chark, who's drawing some positive reviews in Lions camp. It's going to be a good offense. It might be a bad defense, which means more scoring opportunities for the Lions. I think DeAndre Swift is going to catch a ton of passes this year. He's got big-time explosive upside behind a good offensive line. Jared Goff is good enough to support high-end fantasy performers in his offense. We've seen it before. Yes, it was with the Rams and with a much better offensive mind in Sean McVay, but we've seen him do it before. We've seen him support multiple high-end performers in fantasy. So I'm all in on Swift. As far as Javonte, I love Javonte Williams. I drafted him everywhere last year. I'm not drafting him as much at the 2-3 turn. Now, if he falls to like the top of the 3rd round, yeah, I'll take Javonte there. I'll take a shot because the talent is undeniable. But Nathaniel Hackett is the new Broncos head coach. He's the Packers offensive coordinator from the past couple of years, has said, he's been on record saying, I'm going to keep the same running back distribution as far as snaps and touches that I did in Green Bay. Now, that could still mean a 60-65% split in Javonte's favor. But he's going to have to come through, and I guess he can do this. He's going to have to come through on some Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler type efficiency to deliver the RB1 performance that he's being drafted as. And he could do it. He's got the explosive run rate. He did it last year. But I think Gordon is going to factor in more than his ADP gives him credit for. You can have Gordon like 110 picks into a draft. Or let me double check his ADP on Underdog. Oh, I have it already pulled up. Melvin Gordon's ADP is, 110, 111. 110.9. So you can have Melvin Gordon, you can have Javonte at the 2-3 turn with, let's say, 55 to 60% of the work. Or you can have Melvin Gordon 35-40% of the work as running back depth 70, 80, 90 picks later. So I guess I have a little bit of concern about Javonte relative to his ADP. I know he's awesome. I love the talent. Javonte is amazing. His explosive run rate is best in the league. And he's only going to get better. And I'm not saying Gordon's going to take an RB1 season from him. I'm just a little worried that Gordon is going to continue to factor in more so to the point that I don't agree with where both are being drafted. Does that make sense? Like Javonte at the 2-3 turn, yeah, he's going to deliver on that some weeks, maybe most weeks. I'm just not sure how comfortable I am with that, knowing I can get Gordon 80 picks later while he's still getting, say, 40% of the work. So I'm all in on DeAndre Swift as a high second-round pick. I like Javonte Williams. I can't sit here and definitively say I'm like fully behind him at cost. If he slides into the third round, sure. Yeah, I'll take a shot on the value. But if he's going 16, 17, 18 overall with guys like Mike Evans and T. Higgins and Leonard Fournette, who has a much more, I know Leonard Fournette's not as good as Javonte Williams, but Leonard Fournette's got more of a secure RB1 workload than I think Javonte does. Javonte's better. Javonte's more talented than Leonard Fournette. Not the conversation. Leonard Fournette, I think, has a more secure workload than Javonte does. So if he's going over him, going over T. Higgins, going over Mike Evans, going over the Chargers receivers, I think I'd rather take a shot on those guys, the names that I named, and then Javonte. So I guess that's where I'm at with that. Hopefully that helps. Or if you agree or disagree, feel free to let me know. James, do I think Tua could be a top quarterback in drafts if he has a breakout year in year 3? Top? No. He'd have to have a season beyond any reasonable expectations, like exponentially better than any reasonable, even glass half full expectations. A top quarterback in drafts? So top, I mean, I associate top with Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, Kyler, Justin Herbert. No, he'd have to have a 40 passing touchdown, 6-7 on the ground rushing scores type of year with all kinds of yardage like thrown in. You know, he's a 4,000-yard passer and a 500-yard rusher. I like Tua this year. I'm optimistic about Tua's chances this year in that offense. I can't sit here and he's going to total 4,500 yards and 45-plus touchdowns, total touchdowns. And even then, I don't think drafters are taking him over Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Lamar, Kyler. I'll even throw in guys like Burrow in there. Like Brady if he comes back. Even Jalen Hurts and Trey Lance. I don't. Maybe he's in that conversation, but he has to have a season beyond any reasonable expectations. But we'll see. Xavier, what am I thinking about Michael Thomas? I'm not too worried about Winston's lingering issues. Is Rojo in here? Yeah, Rojo's in here. I see he just asked a question. Rojo, what's the latest on Winston's injuries? I think he's fine. They're probably just being extra cautious with him. I got to imagine they're just being extra cautious with Jameis. He's still 3.5 weeks to be ready for week 1. That being said, the vibes on Michael Thomas have been good recently. Running routes without any issues. In good favor or good fortune with the team after there was some reports last year that he and the team were at odds. They didn't see eye to eye. Apparently that's all behind him. He's got a mammoth target share waiting for him. They added Jarvis Landry. They added Chris Olave. They bolstered the offensive line with the drafting of Taylor Penning. This offense is going to be good. Jameis is a former 5,000-yard passer. Let's say even in a worst-case scenario, Jameis's issues linger into the season and he misses a week, maybe 2. Jameis is a former 5,000-yard passer who, in a limited sample size last year, showcased the best efficiency of his career as far as like completion percentage and touchdown to interception ratio. Now he gets Thomas back. They add Landry. They add Olave. I feel good about Michael Thomas. Will he be the overall wide receiver 1? Probably not. Should he command 120 targets? Yes. His ADP has gone from the 7th to about the 5th round on Underdog Fantasy. I absolutely am fine taking a shot on Michael Thomas in the 5th round. No question. Yeah, I feel perfectly fine about Michael Thomas. And yeah, Nemo, I think I agree. I think that guillotine league or that guillotine team is absolutely good enough to get you through the first couple of weeks when you can start adding players from worse teams after they drop off. Yeah, I think you set yourself up nice. Might need like one. Actually, go either way since you only start 2 receivers. Maybe go running back first based on what you can grab on waivers and receiver second because you got some young guys at the position who should hold up for you. Whereas your running backs are are a little longer in the tooth. So if you can get a better RB3 than Nyheim Hines to help hold down the fort for you and beef up your depth, I would go that way first and then get a wide receiver. But yeah, man, that league, that team should absolutely be good enough to finish top 17 for week 1. Yeah, you're good. You are good. And then now we got a side A versus side B. I like doing these. Side A, McCaffrey, Pitts, Pittman. Is this redraft? Yeah, okay, yeah, redraft PPR. McCaffrey, Pitts, Pittman, or Jefferson, Andrews, Connor. Holy hell. I think I got to say the McCaffrey side. I think I got to say the McCaffrey side because I'm drafting. Okay, in a vacuum, let's just say in a 12-team redraft, I'm drafting McCaffrey over Jefferson. So point to side A. I'm drafting Andrews over Pitts, even though I love Pitts this year. So point to side B. And then I'm drafting in full PPR. I'm drafting Pittman over Connor. So 2 points in favor of side A, 1 point in favor of side B. I'd rather have side A. And if Pitts is the guy that you get, in the third round or second round after Andrews, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I have a standing bet this year that just straight up half PPR scoring over 17 weeks that Pitts outscores Mark Andrews in half PPR fantasy points. Call me crazy. I think Pitts is going to explode this year. And then, yeah, I'd rather in full PPR give me Pittman over Connor, especially when I have McCaffrey. Side A. I love Jefferson this year, but side A. And Xavier, it's your first year doing best ball. Well, first of all, welcome, dude, because I love best ball, and I will talk best ball any day of the week. Anytime anybody wants, I will talk shop on best ball. Yeah, you start 3 receivers and the flex. So there's going to be weeks where you might be starting 4 wide receivers. And they're just safer investments just based on the numbers than running backs. Running backs just statistically get injured more often than wide receivers do. So if your wide receiver core is strong, they could also hold down the flex for you. You might be going 4 deep at receiver each week. And so as far as what guys would be better rounds 13 to 16 over, say, like Tunyon and Higbee, or not Higbee, Tunyon and who else did you have? Gesicki? I'll tell you right now. I'll just go to where you drafted those guys. So Gesicki, 149. I'd rather have Isaiah McKenzie. A couple spots ahead, I'd rather have KJ Osborne. I'd rather have Jarvis Landry. I'll take a shot on Nico Collins, who should start for Houston. I'll take a shot on KJ Hamler, who I know is still coming back from an injury, but should be the Broncos wide receiver 3 with Tim Patrick going down. Any one of those dudes. And then moving down the list where you took Tunyon, I'll take a shot on Van Jefferson. He might not be ready week 1, but does not sound like it's an injury that he's coming back from that'll affect his entire season. Paris Campbell, I'll take a shot on him. I know he's been injury prone, but he's making waves in camp and has a huge quarterback upgrade in Matt Ryan. Marvin Jones is going so late, man. 175 for a guy who totaled 143 half PPR points. On what should be a much better offense this year. They don't have Urban Meyer's mess to worry about. Corey Davis down at 181. I really like Davis at cost this year. I think he's going to bounce back nicely on what should be a better Jets offense. Lots of receivers, Xavier, that I'd rather have than considering that you have Waller, all those guys I named, I'd rather have than Gesicki and Tunyon. But then Hooper down there, yeah, that's fine. 185 picks into a draft, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, ADP is going to be a little different. It's the ADP is basically constantly moving, especially on Underdog, who they probably kick off hundreds of drafts a day. Thousands when they open new tournaments. Yeah. Now, I will say this, Xavier, as a caveat. Draft your wide receiver sooner. So, let's go to where you drafted David Montgomery. Considering you had Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones, if Michael Thomas was on the board, I'd rather have him. If I'm on over David Montgomery. If Amon Ra was on the board, I'd rather have him. His teammate, Darnell Mooney, Chris Godwin, Elijah Moore, Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper, even without Deshaun Watson. I like Amari Cooper this year. I think he's going to be hyper-targeted by the backup quarterback. What do backup quarterbacks do? They hyper-target their number one receiver. Amari Cooper going to get tons of targets the first 11 weeks of the year this year. Hell, Brandon Ayuk. When you have Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones already in best ball, I'll take Brandon Ayuk over David Montgomery. I don't mind the Damian Harris and Cordero Patterson picks, but I guess it's not so much the rounds 13 to 16 to grab your dart throw receivers, Xavier. Get them higher. Get them rounds 5, round 6. When you spend your first 2 picks on running backs, round 3, round 4, round 5, round 6, round 7, I'm hammering wide receiver. In best ball, I'm hammering wide receiver. And yeah, you got Waller probably round 4, round 5, maybe round 5. That's fine. I'm totally fine with that. But then again, wide receiver. Draft some running backs 100 picks into a draft for depth. Grab 2, maybe 3 more, but no more than 3. And then get your QB2, maybe a QB3 if you don't spend high on quarterback. You can grab 1 or 2 wide receivers for depth, but at that point, hopefully you have 5 of them where it's like these dudes are all guys I can rely on to be at least wide receiver 2s. And then you draft your middling tight end 2 to pair with Darren Waller, like Austin Hooper. So rounds 13 to 16, draft your QB2, draft your dart throw running backs, maybe 1 dart throw receiver, draft your dart throw running backs, because to the point that running backs get injured, take chances on guys with dirt cheap ADP who have a chance to give you 3-4 week stretches where they're their team starter, and a middling tight end 2 to fill in here and there for Waller and a bye week. See, got it. Now we're cooking. I'll join a best ball tonight and think wide receiver first, since you got to start 3 and you have no roster control during the season. But hopefully that helps. If anybody else has more best ball questions, by all means, let me know. Nemo giving some insight on how guillotine works. So yeah, should be fun. Your team should be set up just fine to survive the early onslaught of the season. Ro, yes, I am an Eagles fan. Are we fading AJ Brown? We were when the trade happened. So he's still going around the 2-3 turn on Underdog Fantasy. So you can have him around, like, say, pick 24, pick 25. I'm fine taking him there, especially if he ends up being like your wide receiver 2 I'm fine taking him there. I think the Eagles are going to throw more this year. They proved, remember, Nick Sirianni proved to start the season last year the Eagles wanted to be a passing offense. They just didn't have the means to do it yet. Jalen Hurts was first year as a starter in his first half of his first season as a starter, throwing to rookie Devontae Smith, who was their team's wide receiver one. They did have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. They still had Ertz, remember, the first 6 weeks of the year before they traded him to Arizona. They had Ertz and Goddard. So that was, those are really good options at the tight end position. But then at the wide receiver, it was Jalen Reagor. Quez Watkins was giving you a play here and there. Were they still rolling out like Greg Ward and John Hightower and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside? Like the wide receiver crew after Devontae Smith, who was a rookie, was not good. They had Miles Sanders. They weren't really using him at all. They had Kenny Gainwell. But outside of Smith and a couple of tight ends, they didn't have the chops. And Jalen Hurts still learning, still grooming, like first half of the first season of his first year as a starter. They weren't ready to throw the ball at the rate that they wanted to. I think they're going to go back to that a little bit. The Eagles proved last year, the first 6-7 weeks, you remember they were throwing the ball all over the place. They were just terrible doing it because they weren't ready. Jalen Hurts wasn't ready to throw at that rate, and the options, the weapons, just they weren't good enough. That's why they became the most run-heavy team in the second half of the season. The Eagles want to throw the ball. They just figured out by the second half of last year that they couldn't if they wanted to compete. They had to run the ball. So A.J. Brown changes that totally. A.J. Brown completely changes the dynamic. So if you can get A.J. Brown at the 2-3 turn, nah, man, I'm not fading him. Buy A.J. Brown. Let other people, Rojo and anybody else who's looking at A.J. Brown, let other people remember the fact that the Eagles were the number one rushing offense on the season, but forget that they were throwing the ball at an insane rate to begin the season. The Eagles want to throw the ball, and that has always been the organization's mindset, the organization's approach to team building for years. The Eagles want to throw the ball. A.J. Brown presents a massive upgrade over anybody not named Devontae Smith in that Eagles wide receiver room. They're going to throw. I don't know about 100 catches, but I think A.J. catches 70 plus. So yeah, draft A.J. Brown at the 2-3 turn. If he falls to the third round of your draft because people are worried about his volume, draft him. Draft AJB. Draft AJB. And yeah, Winston's fine. That's what I figured. They're monitoring him right now. They're managing him. They're taking care of the injury. They're making sure it doesn't get worse. He's got 3.5 weeks to go before he needs to actually see the field. Winston's fine. And Thomas is, Packers have a really good secondary, really, really strong. Thomas is looking good. Draft Michael Thomas in the 5th round, too. So, yes, sir. Wheels up on the Saints offense. Don't be afraid of Michael Thomas, despite missing last year. Don't be afraid of Alvin Kamara because of the legal stuff. The suspension's not going to be handed down until 2023. Draft your Saints. James, which defense do I prefer? Pittsburgh or Dallas? The Steelers were not the Steelers of old last year. I guess the Cowboys because of Micah Parsons, but I think the Cowboys defense is also going to take a step back this year. Remember, Dallas was historically bad on defense in 2020. They weren't just bad, they were awful. Like yards allowed, they were historically bad. Now they draft Micah Parsons, and that can single-handedly change your fortunes. But they were top of the league last year. Trayvon Diggs was picking off every pass, right? He had 11 interceptions. Micah Parsons burst onto the scene, was getting Defensive Player of the Year votes as a rookie. I think they're going to regress a little bit. it's hard to go from historically awful to really good and then stay really good over the course of 3 seasons. I think they're going to come back to the middle a little bit. So honestly, I'm not crazy about either one of those defenses. Pittsburgh has the name year in and year out. They're a stout defense like usually, and TJ Watt is that guy to rack up sacks for you. But they struggled last year. Steelers' defense struggled last year. Yeah, I don't know if I want either one. The defense I want this year is the defense that Rojo mentioned. I want Green Bay. Because I think they're flying under the radar. When it comes to defenses, if anybody watched the ESPN Fantasy Marathon, I didn't watch all of it, but I did catch Field Yates say one thing smart. Never be the person to draft a defense high. Draft a defense that's flying under the radar that you think is attached to a team that's going to win games. He didn't say that part. I said that part. Draft defenses on teams that expect to be good, that have high win totals according to Vegas. Because when they're winning games in the second half. It forces their opponent to take more shots, take more chances, take more risks, and therefore higher chance of making mistakes, which come in the form of sacks and turnovers. Give me the Packers defense for fantasy this year. They're flying under the radar. They're going to be good. The Packers win games. They're going to win 12 games again this year, despite having no receivers. They got a stud in Jair Alexander. They've got talent throughout across the defense, across each level. I feel like they're flying under the radar. That's the defense I'm looking at as far as the defense I feel like very few, if not anybody, is talking about for fantasy. So, yeah. Xavier, yeah, you are welcome. Absolutely. Anybody has any more best ball questions? Happy to talk shop. Jared, what's going on? Commanders fan. Commanders fan, Jared. Well, if you got any questions about the Commanders for fantasy, you let me know, man. Xavier's a Niners fan. I think they play each other this year. Don't they? Do the Commanders and Niners play each other this year? I don't remember. And Rojo's a big Jahan Dotson fan, for sure. But yeah, he might have to step up. Or he will have to step up. Somebody's going to have to step up. Personally, I think it's Curtis Samuel to take some of the pressure off of Terry McLaurin. I think it could be Curtis Samuel. They paid him a lot of money. He's got Swiss Army knife upside. Ron Rivera worked with him in Carolina. He knows what he brings to the table. Dotson has big time upside. I don't know if he fires this year. He could. He made some highlight reel catch in practice a couple days ago. Rojo, as far as AJ Brown versus Higgins in Dynasty, I like Higgins more, especially if you have Burrow. Give me that stack. Give me Higgins. Give me Higgins. I think in a vacuum, I think I'd rather have Higgins. He's younger. Doesn't have knee issues the way that AJ Brown. I don't think AJ Brown is like a lingering injury concern, but he has missed time in his career. He's 25 years old. Not old, but T. Higgins, I think, is what, 23 or maybe 24? No, he's 23. T. Higgins is a baby, man. T. Higgins is 2 years younger than AJ Brown, fewer injury issues than AJ Brown, and in a much more stable long-term situation than AJ Brown. I love AJ Brown, but give me T. Higgins. Even if you didn't have Burrow, Rojo, I would say give me Higgins. With Burrow, it's that tips the scales significantly for me. I would take Higgins. I would take Higgins. Thoughts on Zeke this year, Xavier? So he's going in the 4th round of redraft leagues. Or last I saw his ADP was maybe around like 38-ish. I'm in at that ADP. I'm in on Zeke at that cost. He was an RB1 for what, the first 5-6 weeks of the season before he was a meniscus tear that he picked up, and that obviously hampered him throughout the rest of the season. Now he's healthy, and you're drafting him at his floor. It's not like you got to spend a first-round pick on Zeke the way you've had to for his entire career up till now. Now you can draft him at the 3-4 turn. If he falls to the 4th round, you're drafting Zeke at his floor. And he's coming into the year healthy. It's not like he's on the PUP list and it's like maybe he'll be available week 1, right? Then it's a different story. He's being drafted at his floor and he's gonna be ready week 1. He's gonna start and play week 1. I'm in on Zeke at cost this year. In Dynasty, man, yeah. But I'm fine with drafting Zeke and taking a chance on him in the 4th round. The risk is smaller than it's ever been. Let's put it that way. The risk on Zeke is smaller than it's ever been. Missing out on a guy in the 1st round is not the same as missing out on a guy in the 4th round. And this guy in the 4th round has been a proven RB1 throughout his career. And this Cowboys receiving core is hurting right now. CeeDee Lamb is there. It's maintenance. He's totally fine, right? There's nothing wrong with CeeDee Lamb, but he's currently taking some time off in practice. But Michael Gallup just got a positive update that Michael Gallup is running routes, but he's not going to be ready week 1. James Washington has suffered a fracture. He's not going to be ready. And Noah Brown picked up an injury as well. This Cowboys receiving core is hurting. Zeke's going to have to be able to handle as much as he can, at least to start the season. Running it and catching it. So, yeah, give me Zeke in the 4th round. Jared, last time you played fantasy, man, yeah, you got to diversify your assets, man. I get being a fan. I get being a fan of your squad, but you gotta diversify those bonds a little bit. But if you're jumping back in this year, then welcome back. Make sure to draft some guys other than who are on the Commanders. But if you're playing this year, welcome back. And Rojo, I agree. I think Zeke makes sense at his ADP. In redraft, it makes sense to grab Pollard if you have them both, for sure. And that's not a difficult handcuff situation to build, insurance policy to build. Zeke in the 4th round, man, you're drafting him at his floor. I'm with it. I'm totally fine with drafting Zeke in the 4th round, top of the 4th round. Damon Davis is going to have a big year. He's on defense, right? I can't speak to IDP as it pertains to fantasy. But yeah, I mean, former 1st round pick. Former 1st rounder. Let's see. Oh, and okay, Jared, you still don't play. Well, if you ever think about playing fantasy, let us know. This is obviously you're welcome. Anybody's welcome to come in and talk shop and talk football. I do primarily focus on fantasy football. So if you ever decide to play again, you just let me know. But welcome. Feel free to come in and ask questions, talk shop. Might not be able to speak to everything as far as like defensive players, but absolutely happy to talk shop. And yeah, Dotson's a future play for fantasy. I'm not sure how much stock I put into his potential for this season. And of course, we got to see what the quarterback situation is for Washington moving forward. They're clearly competing this year. They're not going to be in a position to get one of the top 23 or the top prospects for 2023. They're competing with Carson Wentz and that and that defense, or they're attempting to. So the quarterback situation is kind of a question mark long term, but Dotson's going to have every opportunity as a former 16th round pick or 16th overall pick in the draft. He's going to get plenty of opportunity. Nemo, is there a case for Henry finishing RB1 this year? There's a case in the sense that he's probably going to get as much volume as he can handle. Coming off the fracture, the broken bone in his foot, that is a concerning injury, especially for a running back with all of the tread on his tires. What Ian Harditz, I'll give a shout out to Ian Harditz, had brought up that I feel like not too many people are bringing up is Henry could catch the ball more this year than he ever has when you consider that Titans wide receiver core. Yeah, they have Robert Woods. They drafted Treylon Burks. After that, it's like Nick Westbrook-Akine and who else? I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. I just generally am like drawing a blank on who was the Titans like wide receiver for. Wide receiver 4 or 5. That point being, they might dump the ball off to Henry in the passing game a little bit more frequently this year, which would also lessen the number of times that he's getting slammed up the middle, which obviously he excels at. That's where he makes his money. But Henry might catch the ball more this year with a depleted wide receiver core in Tennessee. So if he gets all the work that he can handle, which the Titans are going to try to do, remember the Titans are the defending number 1 seed in the AFC. They still have aspirations to compete this year and be a good team. They're going to give Henry the ball as much as he can possibly handle. From a pure volume perspective, that's his case for RB1. And yeah, Rojo, I'm in the same boat. I feel like I fade Henry every year, and every time it's like, you're wrong. Like last year, the fact that he got hurt does not justify the fact that you should have faded him last year, because last year for 8 games, he was giving you the overall RB1 performance. Even if you lost Henry for the season last year in fantasy, you were probably at worst like 6-2. He secured you a playoff spot in those first 8 weeks by himself. So that being said, I have him like as my RB5. I'm probably drafting him maybe 7th or 8th overall in half PPR. But there is a case for him. That is the case for him to finish RB1 overall. He sticks to his insane volume, and on top of that, he gets thrown the ball a little bit more this year because the Titans just have a depleted group of receivers. And as far as monster running back versus wide receiver heavy strategy, it depends. It depends on the roster makeup, even in full PPR. Do I start 3 receivers? Then I'm going wide receiver heavy. Full PPR, I'll say, I guess I'm more inclined to go wide receiver heavy. Do I start 2 receivers? Well, yeah, I'll take a running. Then in more scenarios than if I started 3 receivers, I'll take a running back instead of a receiver. In more scenarios, I'll take a running back. It depends on my roster makeup. How many flex spots do I have? Do I start 3 receivers? I'm going receiver heavy. Do I start 2 receivers, but I have 2 flexes instead of 1? Might still stay receiver heavy. Do I start 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and 1 flex? I'll probably I would load up a little bit more at running back. So it depends on the starting roster makeup. And then I look at that and I go from there. Um, and the Titans will keep handing Derrick Henry the ball until the wheels fall off. I think that's their whole plan this year. I do. So in that regard, I think he's got the one more RB1 season in him, and then after that, who knows? Then he'll have crossed most likely the 1,800 carry threshold for his career, and then it's like, generally speaking, that's the proverbial cliff for running backs. We are coming up to the end of this chat shortly, and also we have preseason football coming up in about 15 minutes. So it does feel like a preliminarily an opportunity to kind of start winding this down. Obviously, if anybody has any more questions or topics that they want to talk about, I will keep this going, but just want to call that out. With the game kicking off soon, I'm sure some of you, maybe not all of you, but some of you maybe want to watch the preseason game. So I want to keep that in mind. Just want to call out, we are reaching the end of this chat, so we might be wrapping this up somewhat soon. But I appreciate everybody's comments and questions today. It's been a lot of fun. You guys pretty much helped carry me through this. Sans my running mate with John being off today. So appreciate the dialogue, the conversation, the questions as always. You guys already know. And always happy to talk shop. But as we wind this down, Xavier, is the late second round too early for Zeke? You have snakes in your league. Oof. Got to cut their heads off. They draft RB heavy. So Nemo asked, I'm going to parlay this into two separate things. Nemo asked, what strategy do I like more, monster running back versus wide receiver heavy? Let's use this as an example right now. Xavier, what is your starting lineup look like? Do you start 3 receivers? This draft where people draft RB heavy. Do you start 3 receivers? I forget if it's full PPR. I don't think you did. Is it full PPR scoring? Is it half PPR? Is it standard? Do you start 3 receivers? How many flex spots do you have? And then let's go from there to answer your question about where to draft Zeke. And then, I'm not banking on Derrick Henry to play 17 games, but also, Rojo, to be fair, Derrick Henry's injury history is actually kind of minor compared to other running backs. Like last year, I think was the first time he missed significant time in his NFL career. The man is a demigod. Derrick Henry is he's not real life, man. Does he play all 17 games? I guess I would probably bet against that based off of the broken bone in his foot from last year. But does he play like a minimum of 13 games? I could see it. He's been reliable as hell for most of his career, for basically all of his career. If I have like the 8th overall pick and he's there, I'm taking the shot on Derrick Henry. Probably over anybody else there. If it's half PPR, and it's Stephon Diggs or Derrick Henry, maybe I go Diggs, but man, Henry presents an interesting argument as what's basically approaching a late first this year in redraft. And Xavier, you're welcome. I don't know if Xavier, you're still in here. But as far as where to draft Zeke, let me know your roster makeup. I would honestly opt if Zeke's getting drafted in the second round. If Zeke's getting drafted in the second round, I gotta imagine you have dudes like, is CeeDee Lamb available for you at the end of the second round? Is Mike Evans available for you? At the end of the second round, or Debo or Tyreek Hill. I think I would maybe take those guys over Zeke. You know your league mates better than I do or we do, and you know what works best for you as far as your own strategy. I don't think I would take Zeke in the second round just to chase the running backs. full PPR 12-man. And how many receivers do you start? Let me know how many. Do you start 2 receivers or 3 receivers? Because if you start 3 receivers, then I'm going to say if a guy like if your league drafts running back heavy and you're between Zeke and say CD, then I'm drafting CD. Okay, 2 receivers, 1 flex. I think I would still hope that like if like a Mike Evans is there for you over Zeke or Debo or even like Tyreek Hill, like let me take a shot on an anchor at wide receiver, even though I only start 2 receivers. And then I hope Zeke falls to me in the 3rd round. If he doesn't, you still might be able to get Travis Etienne or Breece Hall. You might be able to get Breece Hall, who I like as this. He might start out slow if they do like a timeshare with Michael Carter, but I think he's going to be. I think Breece by the second half of the season becomes the dude in that Jets backfield. So depending on who the receivers are, like if CD, if Mike Evans, I'll throw the tight ends in there too. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Debo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, maybe like AJ Brown, Michael Pittman. Give me one stud running back, and then one of those dudes before I take Zeke. That's what I would do. So there you go. Hope that helps. Mixon or Saquon for Dynasty. Yeah, man, I love Mixon, but I got to go with the upside of Saquon. The vibes are good. And Saquon has 90 catch upside. Mixon sometimes comes off the field on 3rd downs. That's the difference for me. I know Mixon's in the much better offense, but Saquon, and I love Mixon. I love the talent. All things equal, when both are healthy, Saquon is the better player. And Saquon is a year younger than Mixon. Mixon's 26. I think Saquon's 25. Or when does Saquon turn? Let's see. Saquon's 25 and already turned 25 back in February. Saquon, year younger, better player, higher upside, worse offense. But those other things I meant, and 90 catch upside versus maybe 40 catch upside for Mixon. Mixon has the talent to catch more passes, but they take him off the field more frequently than Saquon comes off the field. Saquon. All right, Alex, let's see what this trade is that you're close to getting done. Send away the Cowboys defense for a 23 third and a 23 third for a 23 second. Yeah, I'm good with that. Defenses are easy to replace, man. In Dynasty, if you can flip that plus a low pick for a better pick, defenses are replaceable. So yeah, I'm all on board with that. Get that trade done, Alex. Get that trade done. I'm with it. Okay. Nemo's got one more side A, side B, and then I'll monitor for any other last minute questions or comments. But then we are gonna shut this down so people can go enjoy their Thursdays, maybe watch a little preseason football. But as always, appreciate you guys coming in, hanging out, talking shop. CeeDee Lamb, Leonard Fournette, and Kyle Pitts, or Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Mark Andrews. Side B. I'd rather have Jefferson than Lamb. I'd rather have Aaron Jones than Leonard Fournette. And I'd rather have Andrews. I like Pitts to outscore Andrews this year, but Andrews is deservedly getting drafted ahead of Pitts. I would say that's close enough where I'll call that a wash. For me, I'll call that a push. Side B. Jefferson's my wide receiver 1 this year. Aaron Jones I have as a more of a mid-pack RB1 as far as rankings go, maybe RB8, RB9, somewhere around there. Whereas Leonard Fournette is more of like my RB 12, 13. Pitts, Andrews, call that a push. Side B. Nemo. Yeah, give me the Jefferson side. And then Rojo got a side A, side B. Mixon, Saquon, Michael Thomas and Gabe Davis, or Higgins, A.J. Brown, Jacobs, Pollard? Poof. Is this Dynasty? Man, the side A has a significant advantage at running back with upside to match the wide receiver talent on side B. But if it's Dynasty, Higgins and A.J. Brown are much more enticing than Michael Thomas and Gabe Davis. Oh, dang. That's pretty close. I guess I would say Jacobs is... Here's how I'll break this down. Mixon and Saquon over Jacobs and Pollard, no question. Jacobs and Pollard are both younger, but they're just neither one are on Mixon or Saquon's talent level. Sometimes youth does not equal most desirable situation in a dynasty trade. Jacobs is by far the grossest player in this trade. Pollard has very intriguing upside, but he's not on Mixon or Saquon's level. Now, on the flip side, Michael Thomas has let's call it low end wide receiver 1 upside if he's healthy. Gabe Davis has wide receiver 2 upside. Higgins and AJB both have wide receiver 1 upside. But they're wide receivers, so their longevity is much better than that of the running backs. If you're playing Rojo to win this year, then the Mixon Saquon side. If you're looking to the future, then the Higgins, A.J. Brown side. Because at the end of the day, the guys who are going to last the longest and produce at the highest level are T. Higgins and A.J. Brown, if I had to, I guess, put some money on it. Especially Higgins. The win now side is Mixon and Saquon. The 2 years from now side is the Higgins, A.J. Brown side. It's close. There's arguments for both. And I know that the future side includes Josh Jacobs. I'm kind of just he kind of doesn't count. It's more catered toward the Higgins and AJ Brown factor. Because they should both still be pretty damn good 3 years from now, especially Higgins. Whereas 3 years from now, Saquon and Mixon are potentially on their last legs. And same with Michael Thomas. The only holdover could potentially be Gabe. But Gabe is not, I don't know if Gabe Davis ascends to the wide receiver position, like his team's wide receiver 1 position. I'm not sure. He could, but we already know Higgins and AJ Brown are that. Then you end up with Dillon and Pickens in both scenarios. Then I guess all told, you're good. You don't have to apologize for asking questions, man. This is what this forum is for. I guess if you're getting Dillon and Pickens attached to the Mixon side, then I guess I'm maybe a little bit more definitively side A, because Dillon and Pickens have longevity as well. If you are attaching both of those names to both of these sides, then I guess I would say in every scenario, the Mixon, Saquon, Michael Thomas side. I think I prefer that a little bit more. In not just to win now, but to win in the future. Because you then have, maybe still a 27, 28-year-old Saquon, maybe a 28, 29-year-old Mixon. Maybe they're decent depth at that point, but A.J. Dillon is an RB1 for you. Pickens is at least a wide receiver 2. You still have Gabe. I would say the Mixon side for both. If you're attaching Dillon and Pickens to both of these, then give me the Mixon side. I'll take the Mixon Saquon side. And I'll go compete for a championship this year and figure everything else out later. Yep. That is what I would do. Never apologize for asking questions or for coming in here and asking, bringing up thoughtful football dialogue and conversations. That is what we are here for. It is 8 o'clock on the East Coast with preseason football about to kick off and at the end of the chat. So I am going to call this Gonna shut this stream down for the evening. One final plug for each of our little channel tidbits. If you want to keep this conversation going, you can join our Discord, free evergreen invite. That is the third link in the description of this video. You can click on that link, accept an invite, and join a growing and awesome fantasy community. My redraft draft plan for anybody who's playing redraft, the second version of that is also available. That is the second link in the description of this video. You can also go to our website, facemaskpod.com, to find that. Simple click and download from the description of this video. You'll get my draft plan, breakdown on 150 different players. Hopefully that helps. I have more updates that I have to make to that. Those will continue to come. And finally, if you are not a member of this channel, but maybe you are interested in becoming a member of this channel based on what you've seen and heard, hopefully you like what you see and heard, we have plenty of details in the first link in the description of this video, and all of the videos on our channel will give you some details about perks about becoming a Facemask Fantasy member. But that's going to do it for me tonight. Everybody have an awesome weekend. Hope everybody enjoys watching football or whatever activity it is that you guys have going on this weekend. Stay safe. Have fun. John will be back on Tuesday. I will be off next Thursday. So John will be taking care of you guys for next Thursday's stream, which I assume kicks off maybe week 3 of the preseason. But regardless, I will be here on Tuesday with John for a full show. But until then, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.